Well, it does matter how many eyeballs see it, and certainly in the logic of mass media economies, it's very significant, the sheer aggregate. But that's a very blunt instrument for understanding what consumers are actually doing with content. We pass advertisements all the day, billboards, billboards and signs and packaging and so forth, and very little of it do we actually notice. We sit in the room with the television set on, and commercials play past us all day, but we may pay very little attention to it. So we don't want to look just at impressions. We want to look at what people actually do with the content that enters into their lives. How many people are actively engaged with that content? How much investment they make in that content? Who shares that content with their friends? What's the conversation that's taking place around the content? And those become better metrics through which to measure the impact of media on the culture. And I think both the advertising industry and the media production industries are increasingly paying attention to not just impressions, but expressions, the kinds of uses that are being made of media content. In that context, even unauthorized circulation may in the long term build up a greater economic value for the content. So in the book, we use the example of Susan Boyle from Britain's Got Talent. It's a video segment of commercial content that was pirated, was put illegally on the internet, and reached, again, 70+ million views in a relatively short period of time as it traveled through YouTube and other social media. In the short term, Fremantle, the company that produced it, had very little ability to capitalize on that visibility. They couldn't get the show on television in other parts of the world. They didn't set up a system for distributing through Hulu or iTunes. They couldn't even work out a deal with Google to get better revenue from the eyeballs it attracted on YouTube. But at the end of the year, Susan Boyle's album outsold Whitney Houston's album in the US market and in other markets across Europe, suggesting that in fact that investment, the kind of active commitment people made to illegally pass along the Susan Boyle video, in fact built a market where no market existed before. So to describe that as piracy is to sort of imply that it's damaged economic value. Whereas in this context and many, many others, it's abundantly clear that these acts of spreading content have in fact increased economic value. So if we don't suspend the arguments about piracy long enough to actually look at how value and meaning is being created, companies are going to be blindsided by potential sources of revenue that they are leaving on the table, literally, because they're not following the ways that grassroots communities are organizing around the circulation of their content. Three words. I mean, I think first it's going to be participatory in the sense that the public will be both shaping the content we see, and the choices of content that's most accessible, and even the tags we use to access that content. Secondly, it's going to be more fragmented, more diverse than we've seen before, I think, and I think it's going to be engagement-based, not appointment-based. That is, people will watch the content when they choose, and the desire is going to get us to pay attention to the currency of content, to get people to pay attention quicker, to help encourage people to spread that content more actively.